They told you nature was beautiful. They lied. For the last year, we have been investigating the crime scenes of the animal kingdom. We tracked serial killers, drug addicts, body snatchers, and biological machines. We found that the ocean is not a paradise, it is a battlefield. We found that the ground beneath your feet is a war zone. This is the definitive collection of dark biology. We begin with the ocean's most beloved animal, and the dark secret it's hiding in its smile. The water is churning. It's a chaotic, violent froth of white foam and blood. A mother is screaming. She is throwing her body between the attackers and her calf, biting, thrashing, doing everything a mother can do to save her child. But she is outnumbered. The attackers use their beaks like battering rams. They launch the baby into the air. They slam it underwater. They aren't trying to eat it. They are trying to break it. They crush its skull. They rupture its internal organs. Within minutes, the calf is dead, sinking into the dark. This looks like a shark attack, or a frenzy of killer whales. But as the water clears, we see the killers. They are smiling. They are clicking playfully. They are the animal you have on your lunchbox. The killers are bottlenose dolphins. Why? Why would the ocean's most beloved animal commit cold-blooded infanticide? To understand this crime, we have to tear down the mask. We have to expose the drug abuse, the gang violence, and the sociopathy that hides behind that smile. This is the true story of the ocean's cutest criminal. Welcome to the open ocean. We look at dolphins and see a friend. We call them noble, pure. We tell stories of them saving humans from sharks. But the ocean sees something very different. The ocean sees a sociopath. You see, the dolphin's brain is terrifyingly similar to ours. They have self-awareness. They have complex social hierarchies. They have distinct cultures. And just like humans, when you give a creature this much brain power, you don't just get art and empathy. You get the capacity for evil. Researchers who have spent their lives watching them in the wild tell a dark story. They see a creature that is manipulative, narcissistic, and violently possessive. The smile you see on their face isn't an expression of joy. It's just anatomy. Behind those dead, black eyes, a calculated plan is always forming. And the first item on their rap sheet is drug abuse. Let's descend into the coral reef, a vibrant, colorful city. Here, we find our first victim, the pufferfish, a slow, clumsy swimmer protected by a deadly defense mechanism, a powerful neurotoxin that can kill almost anything. But the dolphins don't want to eat it. They want to use it. Young male dolphins catch these fish, but they don't kill them. They treat them like a toy. They chew on them gently, just enough to terrify the fish, causing it to release a small, controlled dose of its toxin. The dolphins pass the fish back and forth, like a joint at a party. The toxin acts as a narcotic. The dolphins enter a trance-like state. They float near the surface, staring at their own reflections, mesmerized. They are getting high. To the pufferfish, this is hours of torture. It is being chewed on and terrified purely for the recreational amusement of a superior predator. But getting high is a victimless crime compared to what happens in the waters of Scotland. Here, researchers started finding the washed-up bodies of harbor porpoises. Dozens of them. Their bodies were shattered, internal bleeding, broken bones. At first, they thought it was boat strikes, but the autopsies revealed the truth. The bite marks didn't match a boat propeller. They matched the teeth of bottlenose dolphins. Dolphins and porpoises don't compete for food. They aren't enemies. So why were the dolphins killing them? Because they could. Eyewitnesses watched as gangs of dolphins surrounded a lone porpoise. They played with it. They rammed it, tossing it into the air like a volleyball. They slammed it underwater, over and over, breaking its ribs. They played with it until it stopped moving. And then, bored, they swam away. They left the body to rot. It wasn't food. It was target practice. This is the definition of sociopathy, the infliction of pain and death for mere entertainment. But in the dark society of the dolphin, bullying is just the beginning. To understand the murder we saw at the start of this video, we have to go to Australia, to a place called Shark Bay. Shark Bay is the Bronx of the dolphin world. It is here that scientists discovered the dark truth about dolphin society. It isn't a family, it's a mafia. In this bay, male dolphins don't operate alone. They form complex, rigid alliances. Gangs. These aren't loose friendships. These are military units. A first-order alliance is a trio of males who do everything together. They hunt together, they sleep together, and they conspire together. Their goal is simple: control. Specifically, control over females. In most of the animal kingdom, mating is a courtship. The male tries to impress the female. He dances, he builds a nest. The Shark Bay dolphins don't court. They kidnap. When a gang of males spots a fertile female, they surround her. They chase her down. They ram her with their bodies, biting her flippers, terrifying her into submission. They herd her away from her family, away from her protection, and then they hold her hostage. This kidnapping can last for weeks. The males take turns guarding her. If she tries to escape, they beat her. They make popping sounds, a threat that means, "Stop, or we will hurt you." They starve her until she submits. And if a rival gang shows up, chaos. This is where the second-order alliances come in. The trio calls for backup. They have agreements with other gangs. Suddenly, you have a brawl of 20 or 30 dolphins, a massive underwater gang war. They aren't fighting for territory. They are fighting for possession of the victim. It is a level of calculated, organized violence that is almost human. But this brings us back to the most horrific crime of all: the baby. We saw the violence at the start. We saw the gang of males crush the life out of a calf while the mother screamed. But we didn't answer the question. Why? The answer is chillingly simple. It's biology. Dolphin mothers are incredibly devoted. They nurse their young for years. But while a female is nursing a calf, she is not fertile. She cannot get pregnant. For a male dolphin driven by the urge to spread his genes, a nursing baby is an obstacle, a barrier. And the dolphin's solution to this barrier is murder. The males we saw, they weren't crazy. They weren't just being cruel. They were doing math. They killed the baby to break the mother's biological cycle. Without a baby to nurse, the mother's body will stop producing milk. Within a few weeks, she will become fertile again. She will be ready to mate. The males know this. They calculated it. They murdered a child simply to speed up the mother's biological clock. This is infanticide. It is the ultimate expression of biological selfishness. And the most chilling part? They don't hide it. There is no shame, no remorse, just a cold, calculated transaction. A life for a mating opportunity. We want to believe that nature is beautiful. We want to believe that intelligence brings kindness, but the dolphin proves us wrong. It proves that intelligence is just a tool. It can be used to solve puzzles, to create art, or it can be used to manipulate, to dominate, and to destroy. It has realized that in the brutal game of survival, playing nice doesn't always work. Sometimes, you have to be the bully. Sometimes, you have to be the gangster. So the next time you see that famous, curved smile breaking the surface of the water, don't smile back. The ocean isn't a Disney movie. It's a crime scene. And the bad guy is the one everyone loves. If you thought the dolphin was dark, you haven't seen anything yet. It's happening right now. In your garden, in the park, down the street. Smaller, subtler, but infinitely more twisted. This is the true story of the animal that gave Charles Darwin nightmares, the living body snatcher. Our story begins in a world of green, a universe contained on a single leaf. Here lives our victim, a caterpillar, perhaps a tomato hornworm. Its life is simple. It eats. Every bite fuels the miraculous process of metamorphosis. Every cell in its body, every instinct, is preparing for transformation. Finding a safe place, spinning a silk pad, and shedding its skin to become a chrysalis. Inside that shell, it would dissolve into genetic soup. The imaginal discs, clusters of stem cells, would rebuild it into something new. A moth or a butterfly, a creature of air and sunlight. This caterpillar is a promise, a living blueprint for transformation and flight, but it will never see that future. Because something is hunting it. This hunter isn't after a quick meal. It doesn't want to kill its prey. It wants it alive. It wants to use it as a living womb, a walking nursery, a pantry of flesh. This is our villain, the parasitoid wasp. She looks harmless, delicate even. Many species no larger than a grain of rice. You might mistake her for a gnat, but she's a biological nightmare forged by over 100 million years of evolution. She is not just a killer. She is a surgeon, an anesthesiologist, and a master manipulator. She hunts not by sight, but by scent. Her antennae sweep the air, tasting invisible chemical trails. She's searching for a specific smell. Not just the scent of a tomato plant, but the scent of a tomato plant wounded by this exact caterpillar. Plants release unique chemical distress signals when attacked, and the wasp has evolved to interpret those signals as a roadmap to her prey. She has found her host. The wasp lands near the caterpillar. It thrashes, trying to shake her off, but it's futile. She curls her abdomen, revealing her weapon, not a stinger, but an ovipositor, a living hypodermic needle, often longer than her entire body. In a blur of motion, she drives it through the caterpillar's soft skin. This isn't a random jab. The ovipositor feels its way inside, probing like a surgeon's scalpel. Biologists divide parasitoid wasps into two horrifying categories. Idiobionts sting their prey into permanent paralysis, then lay their eggs. The victim stays alive but immobile, a fresh meal that cannot move. But our wasp is worse. She is a koinobiont. She wants her host awake. She wants it to keep crawling, eating, and growing. With terrifying precision, she injects her payload and flies away. The entire encounter lasts seconds. The caterpillar appears unharmed. It pauses, then goes back to eating. But inside, the nightmare has begun. The wasp has delivered dozens, sometimes hundreds, of eggs, along with a chemical cocktail and, most importantly, a virus. This isn't a random infection. It's a weaponized symbiosis, the result of a pact between wasp and virus that began over 100 million years ago. The virus, called a polydnavirus, doesn't replicate inside the adult wasp. It's manufactured in her ovaries and injected with the eggs. Its sole purpose is to destroy the host's immune system. The caterpillar's blood cells, its hemocytes, recognize the invaders and rush to attack, trying to encapsulate the foreign eggs in crystalline tombs. But the virus is faster. It disables those cells, dismantling the host's defenses. The caterpillar is now completely helpless. Its own body has become a safe, living nursery for its enemies. Then, the eggs hatch. Dozens of pale, worm-like larvae begin swimming through the caterpillar's body fluids. They are hungry, but their feeding is precise, almost surgical. They eat the fat reserves first, the energy stores. They consume non-essential muscle. They sip the caterpillar's blood. They are programmed, by instinct, to keep their host alive. They must. If the host dies too soon, so do they. And so the caterpillar continues to eat. But it is no longer acting for itself. The larvae's chemical signals hijack its nervous system, driving it to feed compulsively. It eats and eats, stuffing itself to the brim, not to fuel its own transformation, but to fatten the larvae within. The parasites also secrete hormones that stop the caterpillar from molting or pupating. Its metamorphosis is chemically canceled. It will never become a butterfly. It is trapped in a permanent childhood, its body frozen as a mobile incubator. The caterpillar stops eating. It freezes, motionless. Then its body begins to writhe, not from its own muscles, but from the movement beneath its skin. The larvae are positioning themselves. They start to chew. Using sharp mandibles and dissolving enzymes, they bite through the skin and burst into the open air. This isn't a birth. It's an evacuation. Dozens of glistening larvae emerge from the caterpillar's body, leaving it a bleeding, perforated husk. In Alien, this is where the story ends. But in reality, the horror continues. The caterpillar is still alive. Barely. Its body wrecked, its mind fading. The larvae crawl away and begin spinning tiny white cocoons. Inside, they will pupate and transform into adult wasps. But for now, they are soft, slow, and defenseless. Perfect prey for ants or other insects. And so they have a guardian, the caterpillar. Its mind hijacked, its body enslaved. It becomes a zombie bodyguard. It no longer eats or flees. It stands sentinel over the cocoons, ready to defend them with its dying strength. How? In some species, the explanation is even more chilling. A few larvae remain inside the caterpillar instead of leaving. They migrate into its primitive brain and take control. The caterpillar becomes a puppet on invisible strings. If a predator approaches, it thrashes violently, rearing and twisting in spasmodic defense. It fights not for itself, but for the offspring of its executioners. It will guard the cocoons for days without food or rest, until it finally collapses and dies. When the adult wasps emerge, they fly off to begin the cycle anew. Only then does the caterpillar's body, at last, fall still. This isn't a rare event or an evolutionary accident. It's one of the most successful survival strategies on Earth. There are hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of parasitoid wasp species, each targeting a specific insect. They are essential to the balance of ecosystems, quietly regulating populations. Without them, the world would be overrun by caterpillars, beetles, and crop pests. But for Charles Darwin, this wasn't balance. It was a paradox. The brutal efficiency of the parasitoid wasp seemed incompatible with the idea of a benevolent creator. In a letter, he wrote, "I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created parasitic wasp with the express intention of their feeding within the living bodies of caterpillars. It was the problem of evil, written in biological code, a system built on suffering, perfected by evolution." If you wanted to design an alien, you would design this. It has 3 hearts. It has blue blood. It has 9 brains. It can taste with its skin, change its shape in a millisecond, and solve puzzles that would stump a young human child. It is arguably the most intelligent invertebrate the universe has ever created. It should rule the ocean. It should be building cities. It should be inheriting the earth. But it can't, because nature gave this animal a gift, and then it cursed it. Inside this genius mind, there is a biological time bomb, a chemical kill switch waiting to go off. It lives fast, it learns incredibly quickly, and then, at the very peak of its life, it is programmed to destroy itself in one of the most gruesome spectacles in the animal kingdom. This is the dark biology of the octopus. We are about to investigate the tragic, self-destructive life of the ocean's lonely genius. Subscribe now. You'll never look at an octopus the same way again. Welcome to the anomaly. To understand the horror of the octopus's death, we first have to understand the miracle of its life. Because nothing about this animal makes sense on Earth. Let's start with the blood. Our blood is red because it uses iron to carry oxygen. Iron is common. It's efficient. But the octopus? Its blood is blue. It uses copper, a substance called hemocyanin. It is a thick, viscous fluid that allows it to survive in the freezing, oxygen-poor depths of the ocean. But copper is heavy. It is hard to pump. So, evolution didn't just give it one heart, it gave it three. One huge central heart to pump blood to the body, and two smaller auxiliary hearts just to force that thick blue sludge through the gills. And then, there is the mind. We keep our brain in our skull, a centralized command center. The octopus does not trust a single commander. It has a central brain, yes, but 2/3 of its neurons are not in its head. They are in its arms. Each arm has its own mini-brain, its own personality, its own desires. If you cut off an octopus's arm, which happens in the brutal world of the reef, the arm doesn't die immediately. It continues to crawl. It continues to hunt. It can even grab food and try to pass it to a mouth that is no longer there. This is a distributed intelligence, a hive mind of one. It allows the octopus to perform feats of multitasking that are impossible for humans. It can crack a crab shell with one arm, explore a cave with another, and fight off a predator with a third, all while changing the color of its skin to match the sand beneath it. It is a master of its environment. It is the ultimate survivor. And that is what makes its fate so terrifying. Because this animal, this genius, is born with a fatal flaw. A flaw that kicks in the moment it decides to reproduce. For the octopus, love is not a romance. It is a suicide mission. Let's look at the male. He is smaller. He is cautious. And he is terrified. He knows that the female is larger. He knows she is cannibalistic. He knows that if he gets too close, he won't be a mate. He will be a meal. So, he has evolved a tool. One of his 8 arms is specialized. It is called the hectocotylus. It functions as a detachable delivery system. When he finds a female, he keeps his distance. He extends this long, specialized arm, reaching out to her like a bomb disposal technician. He gently inserts a packet of sperm into her mantle. And then, he runs. In some species, the male is so terrified of being eaten that he doesn't even make contact. He literally rips his own arm off, hands it to the female, and swims away, leaving his severed limb to finish the job. But escaping the female doesn't save him. The act of mating triggers a hormonal cascade in his body. He stops eating. He wanders aimlessly. His complex, 9-brained body begins to shut down. Within weeks, he will die. He is a disposable biological unit. But his fate is a mercy compared to what happens to her. The female takes the sperm. She finds a den, a cave, a crevice, a safe, dark place, and she lays her eggs, thousands of them, strings of delicate, translucent pearls hanging from the ceiling of her cave. And the moment the last egg is laid, the kill switch is flipped. It starts in a tiny organ between her eyes, the optic gland. This gland is the grim reaper of the octopus world. It releases a flood of steroid hormones that completely hijacks her brain. It creates a state of singular, obsessive focus. She becomes the guardian. She positions herself over the eggs. She gently blows water over them to keep them oxygenated. She cleans them with her suckers to keep algae away. She is a perfect mother, but the hormones also issue a command. Do not leave, do not hunt, do not eat. The starvation begins. For weeks, sometimes months, she sits there. Her body begins to consume itself. She burns through her fat reserves. Then her muscle, Her skin loses its color. That vibrant, shape-shifting camouflage fades to a pale, ghostly white. She develops lesions, sores. She is rotting alive, but she doesn't move. If a crab walks right past her mouth, an easy meal that could save her life, she ignores it. The optic gland has rewritten her survival instinct. It has turned off her hunger. This is called senescence, the biological death spiral. But starvation is just the beginning. As the eggs get closer to hatching, the hormones ramp up. They push her brain into madness. This is the part that researchers call the self-destructive phase. She begins to act erratically. She spins in circles. She smashes herself against the walls of the den. And then, the horror starts. She begins to groom herself. Too hard. She tears off her own skin. She rips chunks out of her own mantle. In the final stages, she does the unthinkable. She eats her own arms. She isn't eating them for nutrition. Her digestive system has already shut down. She is mutilating herself. It is a chemical psychosis, a biological programming that demands she destroy her own body to ensure she never competes with her children. She is literally tearing herself apart to make room for the next generation. And then, the timing aligns perfectly. Just as her body is failing, the eggs begin to hatch. Tiny, translucent babies, perfect miniatures of their mother, burst from the eggs. They float up into the water column, ready to face the world. And as they ascend to begin their lives, she takes her last breath. She dies. Right there in the den, a hollowed-out husk surrounded by the birth of her thousands of children. And this brings us to the true tragedy of the octopus. The reason they will never rule the world. Those thousands of babies floating away, they will never meet their mother. They will never know their father. They are born alone. Everything that the mother learned in her life, how to solve puzzles, how to open jars, how to escape predators, dies with her. It is erased. Every single octopus has to learn the world from scratch. They are a genius restart, over and over again. That is the life of an octopus. They are trapped in a loop of brilliance and erasure. Evolution has capped their potential. It has given them a Ferrari engine, and then cut the fuel line after one lap. Why? Why would nature create such a cruel system? Perhaps it's a safeguard. Imagine an octopus that didn't die. Imagine an octopus that lived for 50 years. That taught its young. That passed down the secrets of the ocean. With 9 brains, camouflage, and 3 hearts, they would be unstoppable. They would be the apex predator of the entire planet. But nature doesn't like superpowers. It likes balance. So it installed the optic gland, the kill switch, the guarantee that the genius of the deep remains lonely, short-lived, and ultimately tragic. So the next time you see an octopus in an aquarium, looking back at you with that strange, horizontal pupil, don't just see a cool animal. See a prisoner of its own biology. A creature that is too smart for its own good and too dangerous to be allowed to live. It is the alien that walks among us. But unlike the aliens in the movies, it isn't here to conquer. It's just here to die. If you thought the octopus was tragic, click the video on your screen right now to see why spiders are actually biological robots. You will never look at a cobweb the same way again. For more investigations into the dark, bizarre, and unbelievable side of nature, subscribe to The Dark Biologist. You will never look at the world the same way again.